Hello there, everyone. Hmm, I have this little halo on the light. I think I'm going to take a moment to shut this light off. I have to edit that part out. Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Say, and in this talk, I want to talk about a main way how we can relate to process, which is by unfolding them. Now, as you might imagine, this is a really not an easy talk to give. I realize I don't know if I can say I've been dreading it, but it's just like, oh gosh, how do I approach this topic? It's such a big topic. Um, in the past couple of talks, I've talked about different ways of viewing what process is, different ways to categorize or differentiate processes of different sorts. But today, I'm going to talk a little bit about one way to relate to them. But before going into what unfolding process might mean, I'll just name a couple other ways of relating to processes, whether they're welcome ones, or well, that starts to suggest how we might relate to them as welcoming. But there's always processes that we don't necessarily welcome, that we haven't planned for, that trouble us. There's big processes, momentary ones, chronic ones. There's so much diversity here. Um, Yeah, but there's like if we think about process just generally, I mean, I think there's the way of relating that's like let's keep it at arm's length or with a given process, or let's study it. Let's observe it. Let's just be with. Let's let's critique it. Let's analyze it. Um, let's push it away and hope it goes away. That one tickles me for some reason. Of course, that's one I also use at times. Let's hope this damn process just goes away. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. So obviously, depending on the given situation, who you are as an individual or as a group, and the given process at hand, that could have a lot to do with how we relate to the process. But I want to talk about a main way how we could relate to a given process, whether it's one happening in our own body and mind, whether it's a relational one, and to the point of this lecture series, ones that happen in community, whether that community is within a family system of some sort, an organizational setting, or community group, etc. So, I realized that some of my motivation or energy for talking this morning is I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm just going to like enter into the process and kind of unfold my process of giving this talk, which I haven't thought about it a lot, but I was going, this is kind of a big topic, and people might, disagree, or how to say it. It's such a sprawling topic. What to say about it that could be somehow meaningful? I've had those kind of thoughts. So I was thinking, geez, how could I make it clear? And maybe even right now, part of me thinks I could have done more planning for this talk and try to structure it so it's really clear, so I'm not like using up a bunch of your time. But this is one way to go with it, which is the process of giving this talk. I can unfold it. So I'm doing a little bit that right now by just kind of describing to you and to me what I've been going through. But if I take another moment here, let me just pause because that's one of my practices that I'm just enjoying a lot lately. Just taking a moment. What I realize in this process of giving this talk, if I'm thinking about unfolding that, I realize there's something in me that's willing to just kind of like enter into the thing, like kind of almost like into the unknown of it. It's like, okay, I could have planned more, sure, but this is a way. Uh, what else is in the unfoldment here? Give me a moment, if you will, and please feel free to step away if this isn't really the right talk for you or the right approach. By all means, yeah. Part of me says, I'm being kind of indulgent. maybe, but maybe I'm also demonstrating the topic, how to unfold a process. In this case, the process of giving a talk that, in my mind, is really pretty complex. Um, and then I notice when I kind of go inside, I feel something that's kind of quiet and calm. And I think, ooh, I like that. I like that experience. It's one I'm somewhat familiar with. I'm not always that way. Sometimes I'm like really anxious and stressed and conflicted. But there's something that's a little bit calm and quiet inside. And I can almost feel it. It's almost has words. It's like from this place, I might be able to offer something that, at least for me, feels meaningfully connected to this topic of unfolding process. You know, so that's a little bit of my process there, unfolding it a bit. So, what does unfolding mean? It can mean a lot of different things. Like if you think about, here's a piece of paper. Like, so let's say it was a little bit like this. I don't want to hurt the paper. And then we start to unfold it. Oh, what happens? There's writing on the back. There's writing that was crossed out. My agenda for Friday, 8 a.m. meeting, 10 a.m. meeting with so and so. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I was unfolding my agenda from yesterday. I didn't realize it was on the back of this sheet of paper. It's a little concrete example of unfoldment. So, with many, many processes, both individual or communal, there's aspects to the process that may be just abundantly clear. And then I think one of the beauties of process is there's often so much that's unknown about the process. There's so much that can be revealed about a given process. So one of the advantages of the relational way of unfolding process is getting to know what's in this process, whether I welcome it, whether I've planned for it or not. You know? So that's an aspect of unfoldment. It's like discovering, it's exploring, and unfoldment also implies or suggests a more active engagement with the process because I think there's also wisdom in just being with, just observing a process. But one of the things that I'm reminded of from my understanding, which is a layperson's understanding of quantum physics, is that um, there seems to be no such thing as a completely neutral witness or observer. That physics has shown us, quantum physics has shown us, is that when we observe, we actually alter the experience. Yeah, and I don't think I have enough of an understanding of those experiments. I think it's called in physics. You can look it up. It's the double slit experiment where they fire. I think they're photons. Anyway, they fire from a little cannon, some kind of physical or theoretical cannon, bits of particles through these slits, and what one of the things that it shows is that the observer alters the course of events, which is really, I think it's an important lesson to us when we think sometimes we're more neutral than we actually are. So unfoldment is a relatively active way of of relating to a process, and one way, again, just to underline it, is to uncover more about the nature of the process. What's in this? I'm having a tension with my friend. We barely know what it's about, or I don't know what it's about, but can we talk about it? That's starting to unfold it. It's like, oh, there's a past hurt, or I had a resentment, or there's some competition, et cetera, et cetera. Or in a communal process, let's say there's something in a new community or an older community that's just like there's something that inhibits the group. That's a really common communal process. People are shy to speak in the large group. Yeah, very, very common process. But starting to unfold that process, like naming it, observing it, It's like, oh, there's that awareness piece. Get excited, so I'm starting to speed up. Maybe I'll slow down a bit. Maybe I'll take a moment. Invite you to take a moment too. That helps. So there's the awareness piece of just noticing, there's a process in our community. People, it seems, when invited to speak, don't speak. Hmm, what is that? Could be that people just don't have anything to say, huh? But could say it's a process that's unknown. But could say, I noticed that, let's say, and then, from the one's given role as a community member or a community leader, as a teacher, as a family member, as a parent, et cetera. So we have to maybe also consider the role that we have in the given context and then say, well, in my role as a community member, I noticed when I asked, well, what do you think about this issue of whatever it is that we're facing our community, people that are unhoused, or let's say the issue of who gets to speak and who doesn't, and who's being left out and who's being included. Those kinds of issues that no one would say anything. Hmm, can we investigate that? So um, I'm curious. Can we explore this moment where there's an invitation to speak and no one does? Could be that no one just has anything to say, but just inviting that kind of as an example of unfoldment. It's just like it's an inquiry. Yeah, it's kind of leaves a space, and then maybe someone says, "Well, I just don't have that much to say about this issue." Another person may say, "Just being invited to speak in this large group brings up anxiety in me. That's all I have to say." Another person may say, "Well, I have an idea, but it's not fully formed, so I don't want to say it. It's not fully formed." Let's say another person says, "Well, actually, I do have to say something, but I feel like I'm going to just alienate my other community members if I say it." Another person may say, "If I say what I think, I'm just going to be judged for it. It's going to be the wrong thing, et cetera, et cetera." And then all of a sudden, this process, in this example, this process of people not speaking in a given moment when invited to, there's more information that's being revealed. Hesitancies, anxieties, fears, and then we might get to the next part. It's like, well, maybe if some of you fear criticism, maybe we need to consider what that critic say. It's bringing in a bit of role theory, which I'll talk about in a later in a later video. So yeah, then the critic might say, someone say, yeah, I imagine that critic would say, you don't know nothing, you should just shut up. Or the critic might say, if your idea isn't fully formed, you should just keep it inside till it's fully formed, etc. And then if invited, because this could be part of the unfoldment process, if invited to respond to that critic, someone might say, well, even though it's not fully formed, if I wait till all my ideas are fully formed to speak in this community, I'm not going to say anything. And then I realize I'm sitting here and I feel like I don't know, somehow feel like I'm not welcome fully. I'm only welcome here in terms of speaking explicitly if I have fully formed good ideas, something like that. And and then other people might say, yeah, I resonate with that, or I don't. And then maybe something starts to shift in the group over time. And maybe the group notices that even without anyone explicitly telling people not to speak, um, there's something in the environment that inhibits people or silences people. It's really kind of a terrible but somewhat common experience where people feel silenced for different reasons, including around their social identities. It's like some social identities feel like I know it. I'm not welcome in this society. There's plenty of racism and sexism, homophobia, etc., and policies and structures to boot that more than imply that. Yeah, that's why we have the notion of social inequality because as Bill say, I would say, the U.S. society and most societies that I could see, they're not constructed and built to be equal. There's inequality baked into many structures, and fortunately, there's also counter forces. But I'm going off a little bit into a different tangent there. Another other processes to be unfolded, say around democracy and inclusion. Give me a moment, so I'm not too getting too tangential here. Give me a moment to ground myself. So unfoldment could be a lot about carrying the attitude of curiosity, of welcoming, of relieving one's own tension. There could be a lot of things that motivate the unfoldment process. It could also be motivated from your basic role in the situation as a family member, as a community leader, as a community participant, etc. And your own values and visions of what that role could be. Um, what else about unfoldment? Hmm. Well, awareness is really a big part of unfoldment. It's like the process of noticing. And then, as I said before, I don't really think that we're neutral beings or neutral for very long. So, understanding a little bit our own position and how our own values and biases and prejudices and aspirations and visions may also inform how we practice awareness. Yeah, I'm noticing this and this in this community group because I have sensitivities around that because of past hurts, for example. That's not to make it wrong. Actually, that could be a real gift because, for example, let's say a person in a community has had significant experiences with being excluded, with being marginalized. They may be more, may have a heightened sensitivity to that and may be able to point out to the group how the group, actively or implicitly excludes people and could start to unfold that process, help the group unfold that process to become potentially a more inclusive communal group, community group. What else about unfoldment? Hmm. The other thing that comes up for me is like when we in our different roles in life, whether it's citizens or family members, or as leaders or facilitators or teachers or students, children, etc. Just lost my train of thought. Let's see if I can recapture it. Hmm. This is an interesting part of my process. I unfold this moment of forgetting what's in here. I had a point. I really wanted to offer the point, but this is intervening. This kind of blank is intervening. Not knowing. Ah, that's it. That's it. So that actually says it more fully than what I was about to say. Is sometimes in the process of unfoldment, our blankness, our open mindedness, our beginner's mind can be a huge asset as opposed to having preconceived notions of where the process should be or where it should go. Um, because when we start to unfold process, we might consider the direction. How do our values and visions inform the work of unfoldment? For example, we might think, well, I'm a community minded person. And so when I unfold processes in community, it's for the purpose of deepening the sense of community and community inclusion and fairness in the community. Those may be values that you hold that help inform how you unfold a community process. Or maybe you're a person who says, I think different groups need to stick up more for themselves and differentiate themselves, separate themselves so that we can figure out what's what and who's who and get to the bottom of inequities. That's also a really important view and experience that can inform one's style of unfoldment. And in these ways, for example, as the facilitator, I think it's important that we know about our own values and goals. And I think it's often important that we're explicit about them in our unfoldment work. Yes, I'm here to work with you as a facilitator today in your community group. And I will just say to you, my goal in community is try to help build community that's more fair and inclusive, for example. Yeah. Or my goal in community is a social justice one that sees that there are many social injustices. And so the direction towards social justice and equity drives my work. I think it's fair to be explicit about those things as the facilitator because, as facilitators, again, I'd say a few of us are neutral for very long. And sometimes our backgrounds and values and social identities do, in fact, inform our way, our views, our assumptions, etc. So, those are a few things about unfoldment. Let's see, I'm going to pause again to see if there's anything else I would say. I think what I would leave you with is a question. If you consider like community processes, for example, what is your main way of relating to those communal processes? Again, those are whether those are planned or unplanned processes, disturbing or pleasant ones. Is it to somehow um, observe them, resist them, try to change them? And if it's interesting for you, you might consider experiments with unfolding them to discover what is this process about? Where is it going? Where is it potentially taking us or leading us? Is there wisdom in this process, even while it may be a troubling one? So those are a few thoughts for now. Probably feel there's so much to be said about this topic. I may be continuing in this way, and I also welcome your comments in the little section here where you can comment. Okay, bye for now. Thank you.